Fall is right around the corner, and you know what that means. Spooky season is upon us. Halloween is one of my personal favorite holidays of the year, and based on what sells year after year, many others tend to agree. In this video, I'll share some of our favorite tricks and treats, tips, that have boosted our sales every Halloween season for the last 5 years. Hi everybody, my name is Bethany and I, along with my husband Sean, run Trash Pandas Thrift. We are a 6-figure reselling business, and here on this YouTube channel, we share with you all of our tips, tricks, and experiences that we have used along the way, also that you can start and grow your very own reselling business too. And today is such a fun edition. This is going to be a fall 2024 Halloween edition. I'm going to be sharing with you tips, keywords, and BOLOs. I have 3 separate tricks and treats to share with you today. So let's dive right in. My tip number 1, and this is number 1 for a reason, it is my favorite every Halloween season, is check the Halloween section for vintage BOLOs at the thrift store. Now, it is no secret, I am an avid bins shopper. I'm a Goodwill Outlet girl for life. However, this is that asterisk, like when you're reading a really long contract and there's a million different asterisks, this is mine. Halloween is my favorite time of year to source at thrift stores. Whether it's Goodwill, your local thrift store, Salvation Army, any chain, this is it. Go straight to the Halloween section. I personally have found multiple vintage BOLOs. If you've never heard the word BOLO, it means be on the lookout. There are quite a few vintage pieces and styles that often get mistaken for Halloween costumes by thrift store employees, and somehow they make their way onto the sales floor and they make their way into the Halloween section. My favorite example of this are Gunny Sacks dresses and other similar 70s vintage prairie dresses. That's exactly what Gunny Sacks looks like. My favorite vintage BOLO to find, and one of the most common stories you're going to hear when people talk about what they found in the Halloween section. They're like, oh my God, this is not a costume. It's actually, I could count on my hands the amount of times I have found the Gunny Sacks dress, and more often than not, I have found it in the Halloween section at the thrift store. Not only me, but members of our reselling group have started to find vintage BOLOs like Gunny Sacks in the Halloween section too, as their thrift stores started to put out their Halloween sections at the end of August. So this is still early. That's why I wanted to make sure we put out this video early in September. Get out there, get to those Halloween sections. There is some great vintage as well as style-based opportunities hiding there that we're going to talk about later in this video. Let's get into number 2. So my second treat is Halloween novelty sweaters. So we mentioned novelty sweaters in a separate video, fall and winter BOLOs, and Halloween sweaters are a great bread and butter item you can source at the Goodwill Outlet, thrift stores, even at garage sales. So novelty sweaters, and specifically Halloween novelty sweaters, are one of my favorite items to source, especially right now. Personally, I have found most of the ones that we have sold over the years at garage sales, believe it or not, which is why I wanted to add that in. I think 2 years ago, I went to this one garage sale when we lived in Austin, and this whole family had this huge setup, boxes and boxes and boxes of novelty sweaters. And at the time, I was just like, I knew style-based sourcing, I was doing it, but I was really dipping my toe when it came to a lot of vintage. I was like, oh my God, I know there's money here, but I'm nervous. There was no joke, boxes and boxes. He probably had at least 100 plus vintage Halloween sweaters. So not all novelty sweaters are vintage, but as we're going to talk about later, that is a feature that does add value, specifically vintage novelty Halloween sweaters. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick out maybe 10 or 20 of my favorites. That's how many there were. I was taking such a small fraction of what he had, and I picked out 10 or 20. And I was like, how much each? And he told me if you get a bunch, you can pay $3 or $4 a pop. I was like, okay, this is higher than my normal cost of good at the Goodwill outlet, but I feel really confident. I feel confident in these. Also, when you get a bunch of the same item, I love doing that because it's so easy to just sell similar off of your own item and create listings really fast. So I knew it was a great opportunity. When I tell you all of those sweaters sold within a week, for full price. Most of them went for about $30, and they were nothing special like we're going to talk about later. They were just 90s Halloween sweaters. They weren't hand knit or anything of those other valuable features. They were just vintage Halloween sweaters that I slapped on with a bunch of style aesthetic keywords like you know that we do here, and they all sold. And I was like so mortified that I did not buy them out. I was mortified. I even considered going back to their house a week later and be like, hey, you still got those? Obviously I didn't, but it really crossed my mind for a minute there. And that was my very first introduction into selling these in bulk. And I have not stopped loving them since. Okay, let's talk some features that add value in novelty Halloween sweaters. Vintage is one of them. This is an often thing. I feel like vintage as a keyword can often add value to pieces. Having that age of an item and making sure that the buyer knows that it's unique. You can't buy this sweater by going to your local mall, by going to your local store or Target or something like that. Vintage adds value when it comes to Halloween novelty sweaters. Another one, and most likely this is going to be when it's vintage, is hand knit. Go back, and if you haven't seen that video, some of the hand knit sweaters that we put up as pictures for that video with animals on it were wild. Hand knit sweaters add a ton of value. A quick comp search had me seeing people listing some hand knit sweaters for over $60, $70. And there are certain brands that make it so easy to even acknowledge and know whether it's hand knit or not. One of my favorite brands to find this in is Eagle's Eye. They have a tab that says knit by hand. There's quite a few others that often have a tab that says hand knit or knitted by hand lovingly or something like that. Especially wacky sweaters do best. If you have something like an all over print, then you're looking at above bread and butter. Above the story I told you, you're looking at over a $30 sale. However, I feel like especially you're at the Goodwill outlet, you're at a thrift store, and you're looking through the sweater rack and you're seeing pieces at the outlet for $1, $2, up to $5 at a thrift store, and you come across a lot like I did, don't be afraid if you're interested in that $5 to $30 quick sale, especially right now. I also will say that there's some brands that have a cult following for their novelty print sweaters. This is not only a vintage bolo at all. I want to make that clear. I love finding certain brands and their novelty print sweaters. Other novelty prints too, like a lot of brands will do novelty prints and limited edition releases for Halloween, for Christmas, for Valentine's Day. Quite a few that I love are Bowden. I find that people love Bowden novelty sweaters. Also, they're really cute and I love them a lot too, so I might be biased. As well as Wooden Ships. Wooden Ships is a really cool brand as well, because I feel like it's one of those brands that you put a quick search in on eBay and it can look oversaturated at first when you just search Wooden Ship sweater. Their novelty print sweaters though, I was shocked. I found a novelty print sweater a few months back, actually, and it was the cutest thing. I don't think I have a picture, but there's a video of it up on my Instagram, and you can even look at the comments of that Instagram video. I wasn't even showing the sweater off as the point of that video. It was just a video that I made about digging at the Goodwill outlet and buying style-based, and everyone in the comments was not like, ooh, style-based sourcing. They were, no, I want that sweater. Where can I buy that sweater? I need it. It was Hello Witches on it. It was the cutest thing. People love novelty prints. They really do. I do too. And that was definitely evidence to me that this is something that people seek. Vintage or not, I think certain things add value as well, such as materials. I think that's a big thing as well. That Wooden Ship sweater was a mohair blend. And like we talked about in our material video, that adds value no matter the category. Certain materials just elevate your average sales price like mohair. Okay, let's get into number 3. This is my favorite treat of all 3. Maybe it should have been number 1. But Halloween comes around and I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. Halloween offers the absolute perfect opportunity for style-based sourcing and using keywords that you may not have thought of in different ways. And that's what I geek out in. So Halloween, to me, it screams these two keywords. So I'm going to show you how to use these two keywords to create BOLOs for yourself and style-based sourcing opportunities that would sell for a lot more right now, especially. These are the two keywords you're going to want to know and you're going to want to put in your listing titles. Witchy and especially whimsigoth. Witchy and whimsigoth. So we have put out a video, a style aesthetic deep dive video on whimsigoth, all about the keyword, BOLOs for the keyword, how do I understand this? So I definitely am going to link that for you to check out if you haven't already. And even if you have, I think it's a really great refresher as well, because there is absolute no better time of year to source whimsigoth than right now. So whimsigoth, to give us a review, is almost like a blend of two elements. I love thinking about style aesthetics and understanding them as almost like a blend of two elements, because then it almost makes sense in my head as I need one part, I have another. Together, I know I have my keyword. So whimsigoth, I like to think about as witchy boho or witchy romantic. And if you're looking at me and you're like, I don't even know what that means, a really great place to go further when you're trying to understand a new style aesthetic is having some style inspo, some style inspiration. My personal favorite for whimsigoth is Stevie Nicks. Love sharing her outfits. Perfect whimsigoth, witchy, boho examples. So there are lots of 70s and 90s Y2K style influence at play here. It is that blend of witchy boho or witchy romantic, so a very feminine but dark feminine aesthetic. Whimsigoth and witchy goes hand in hand to me. I think whimsigoth and I'm like, oh, what a witch would wear, but in that whimsical way. So these are some aspects that add value that we did not talk about on that whimsigoth video that I think are going to be really important going into Halloween, because now you kind of have this special opportunity for sourcing whimsigoth. So you have people that all year round love the whimsigoth style aesthetic. It is a styled bolo in its own right in specific categories and pieces, right? Using whimsigoth and using witchy in your title, using those style aesthetics, that's strong by itself. There are a pool of buyers looking for that respectively, as well as a pool of buyers looking for that style aesthetic specifically for Halloween. They don't want to wear a costume. They want to wear that for their Halloween outfit, their Halloween costume. So now you have two markets for the same item. You still have an awesome style-based piece that anyone would want if they love that style aesthetic. Plus, you have that market for Halloween buyers as well. So this is how you'll see it in action when I think whimsigoth, and then we'll go into style bolos and what I personally love to source. So whenever I think whimsigoth, this is how you'll see it in action in people that love the style aesthetic. And then we'll talk about transitioning that to Halloween. Whimsigoth, feminine plus grunge, right? So I immediately think midi and maxi skirts paired with chunky shoes, chunky boots, or velvet dresses. Velvet is such a great almost material for whimsigoth because often in darker colors, it's velvet. So it's almost feminine, it's whimsical, but then you add that dark color of purple and black. There you go. There's that goth or grunge element to it. And then pair that with a flowy mesh bell sleeve 70s top right on top of that dress, and you have that witchy boho influence. That's what a lot of whimsigoth creators put out on their social media and their outfit inspiration, and that's what I use to put on my hat when I'm sourcing. Would a person who loves whimsigoth style wear that? So, I'm in the thrift store. What do I look for? This is what I look for. This is my favorite way to source for this style, as well as in that video, I will say we did a lot more summer forward elements and summer forward examples of whimsigoth that honestly sell all year. However, we're talking about a special Venn diagram between Halloween and Whimsigoth today, and keeping that in mind, my favorite are midi and maxi dresses with materials like velvet and mesh. So I absolutely love this because it's a substantial piece, right? A midi or a maxi dress, a beautiful black or purple velvet maxi dress. Maybe it has some lace details, a corset detail, or a lace-up detail. Those are all details that add value and fit into that Whimsigoth aesthetic. However, you can't tell me someone wouldn't wear that as a Halloween outfit as a witch. All they have to do is they're going to buy your dress on eBay or Poshmark or Depop. They're going to wear a little Halloween witch hat on top, and that's their costume. That is exactly what they're going to do. In the same way that we talked about Y2K prom dresses in that Whimsigoth video, people and teenagers don't want to go and buy a new prom dress to go to prom. They want to wear a vintage one. People don't want to go to Spirit Halloween and buy a new Halloween costume. They want to wear a vintage one because they might get to that party and there are 5 different people looking the same as them. Versus they buy a 90s or Y2K Whimsigoth dress online, they go to that party, they are unique. And that is why style-based and especially vintage is what I lean into for this, sells. So another category that's a little bit more fall focused are jackets. And most people do not think about this when they think Whimsigoth. I love jackets. So some aspects that add value with Whimsigoth are nature-inspired details. We talked a lot about this in the last video. Floral, celestial, or animals, right? Think moon, stars, butterflies. Very 90s, very Y2K. So one of my favorite jacket style bolos is this, and I haven't heard anyone talking about this. I love sourcing tapestry jackets, especially with embroidery such as the moon and the stars. Such a huge style bolo. Slap Whimsigoth in your title, you have at least a $50 sale there, and it doesn't even matter the brand, and it's something people would just pass by the thrift store or throw at me at the Goodwill outlet. It is 2 of my favorite types of ways to source because you can market them in 2 ways. Someone's definitely going to buy that dress for a Halloween costume, or they're going to just wear it because it's cute and they love Whimsigoth. And that jacket, they're going to buy that for a Halloween costume, or again, they're going to wear it because it's cute and it's Whimsigoth and it's unique. Okay, you guys, that was my little spiel on Whimsigoth. If you're interested in learning more about that style aesthetic, check out that video. We also might do a full-length video on that for fall and winter if you guys like it, so let me know about that too. These are my 3 treats for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. Halloween is my favorite as a person who loves holidays and as a reseller. So don't miss out on these special opportunities. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone. Happy Halloween.